Trivandrum DC School of Management and Technology in association with Trivandrum Management Association and powered by DC Books. Let's have a look on DC. The Padma Bhushan recipient, Shri Dominic Chako Kirkemure, also known as Kochu Sir, is founder of the DC Books and is our leading light. The DC Kirkemure Foundation organizes a wide range of art, education, and cultural activities. DC Book is the largest publisher in Kerala, the leading publisher of books in Malayalam, and one of the 10 biggest publishers in India. DC Group of Institutions has 2 campuses located in Trivandrum and Vagaman. DCSMAT Group of Institutions are promoted by DC Kirkemure Foundation and co-promoted by DC Books.
Extension is the rule. Survival is the exception. After the great success of Forza 2K21, now we are proudly presenting Forza 2.0 with eminent speakers sharing their experience and challenges in their profession in this COVID-19 pandemic. As today is the curtain raiser Forza 2.0, we have DMA student chapters who is co-chair and group CEO, Medical Ethos Private Limited, Wing Commander Rajeshri D. Nair for inaugural of this edition of webinar series. Day 1. The first day of Forza 2.0 is INDUSTRIA 4.0 and it is a talk about pandemic acceleration of industry revolution for by Shri Santhosh Chandrasekara Kurup, CEO of ICTAK Academy of Kerala.
And on day 2 is Education, a talk on post-pandemic changes on education sector by Dr. Saji Gopinath, former CEO of Kerala Startup Mission.
On day 3, Immobile, talk on post-pandemic revival strategy in real estate sector by Shri Girish KS, Senior Director at Johns Lang LaSalle.
And on day 4, Habilitate, a talk on MSME post-pandemic revival strategy by C. Balagopal, former IAS officer and founder of Termo Penpol.
On day 5, Business Global, a talk on global business environment changes after pandemic by Richard Anthony, Director of EY. These are the guidelines for the webinar. Attendees are not allowed to speak during the course of lecture by the guest speaker. Questions have to be put across to the panelists via Q&A option in WebEx. Click on the 3 dots, select Q&A, and then type your questions over there. The panelists will put forward your questions during the Q&A session. E-certificates will be issued once the series of webinars are over. Feedback needs to be filled at the end of the session to confirm your attendance.
Our chief guests are here. Let's begin with a prayer.
असतो मा सद्गमया तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Once again, good morning to all. I'm Arya Krishna of 2020-22 batch and my co-host is Aishwarya. Today, DCSMAT Trivandrum, in association with Trivandrum Management Association, is commencing a webinar series, Forza 2.0. It gives me a pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of DC fraternity to this webinar series. My gratitude to our Chief Facilitator of DCSMAT Group of Institutions and CEO of DC Books, Shri Ravi DC. I extend a hearty welcome to you, sir. I welcome our chief guest, Wing Commander Ragasri D. Nair and Shri Santhosh Chandrasekara Kurup for this event. I also welcome our director, Dr. Jayashankar Prasad, and students and faculty from all colleges and my fellow DCNs.
Thank you, Arya. DCSMAT Trivandrum, in association with Trivandrum Management Association, is one of the premier management association in the country, which is affiliated with India Management Association, New Delhi. It was established in 1985 by a group of dedicated management leaders. Today, we have the chairperson of TMA Students Chapters, who is also co-chair and group CEO, Medicaid Ethos Private Limited, Wing Commander Rajashri Ma'am. She is professional with experience in the defense service, corporate, chamber, and ministry. Fellowship in applied nutrition, postgraduate in human resource management, brand management, as well as in the language and linguistics. I take it as a privilege to welcome Rajashri Ma'am to address students and inaugurate Forza 2.0. Rajashri Ma'am, the platform is all yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Happy Navratri. Very good morning to all of you. Mr. Ravi DC, the CEO of DC Books. Guest of honor, the speaker of the day, Shri Santhosh Chandrasekara Kurup, CEO ICTAK. The management of DCSMAT, Ms. Arya Krishnan, Mr. Suraj SR, Ms. Aishwarya, students, and all who are participating in this event today. Trivandrum Management Association is proud to associate with DCSMAT or Forza 2.0, which is to instill this thought in all of us that extinction is the rule and survival is an exception. As we are aware that the pandemic has changed how we work, learn, and interact, from right lifestyle changes to better eating habits, people are using this time to get healthier mentally and physically. COVID has hit one and all, rich and poor, young and old, but has not been able to suppress our zeal to create and cap our desire to innovate. In the last 2+ years, we are all living with the pandemic. We are survivors who survived this pandemic. In the month of July this year, DCSMAT had organized Forza 2K21 to provide a platform for students, educators, and parents to relieve them from all the stress and for them to relax for a while through a bunch of entertaining sessions. The sessions had speakers like Shri K.K. Shailaja, as the video had portrayed a little while ago, the then Health Minister, Shri Prashant IAS, Shri Vinod Narayan, Shri Nikhil Gopalakrishnan, and Shri Santhosh George Kulangara. These sessions were held to highlight activities of sectors of health by Minister, the think tank and author, Mr. Prashant IAS, Mr. Narayan, who's an entertainer, Mr. Nikhil Gopalakrishnan from the field of finance, and Mr. Santhosh George Kulangara from the area of travel. The event was very well received and was a huge success. Keeping in line with that, the DC School of Management and Technology Trivandrum has joined hands with Trivandrum Management Association on Forza 2.0 with a lineup of eminent speakers who could share their experience and the challenges they faced in their profession during this unprecedented era of pandemic. The line of speakers for Forza 2.0 are these: from the Industry Pandemic Acceleration of Industry by Shri Santhosh Chandrasekara Kurup, CEO ICTAK. From the education sector, the pandemic changes in the education will be covered by Dr. Saji Gopinath, CEO Kerala Startup. From the real estate sector, the revival strategy in the real estate by Girish KS, strategy consultant at Jonas Langla Sale, which would be held on 16th. From the MSME revival strategy would be addressed by Shri Balagopal IAS, founder Thermo Penpal, on 17th. But last but not the least, we would learn the revival strategy in business by Richard Anthony, Director ENY. I apologize that there is some network issue here. Because of that, my video is not coming on. I seek your apology for that. However, as the Murphy's Law goes, something will work out or something will not work out at the last time. Bear with me for that. For those who are not familiar with it, Trivandrum Management Association, as Aishwarya had spoken a little while ago, is one of the premier association in the country. TMA, which is affiliated to All India Management Association, New Delhi, was established in 1985 by a group of dedicated and enterprising management leaders. TMA is actively engaged in the promotion of management education and entrepreneurial training using its vast resources of professional experts and management leaders across the globe. Through its various activities, the association has contributed significantly to the promotion of management development in the country, particularly the state of Kerala. Since 2014, Trivandrum Management Association has been conducting regular events for its members who are professionals comprising of practicing managers, aspiring managers, and management students. These events are the evening lecture talks, webinars, student chapter programs, and management development programs conducted on a monthly basis. Through these programs, the management fraternity of the city is enlightened by the experiences as well as management lessons from industry leaders and subject experts. The student chapter of TMA started in the year 2014 at Asian School of Business. The aim of this chapter of TMA is to encourage and enlighten management students about their career prospects and internship opportunities by interaction with industry experts that TMA can access. A sampling of our events held under the auspices of student chapter just in last 1 year, which we call the Enlight series, are Lecture on Campus to Corporate by Mr. Alok Kumar Tripathi, AGM and Senior Faculty, National Thermal Power Corporation, Regional Learning Institute, Chhattisgarh, which was held through Zoom into November 2020. Lecture on Creating Value for Yourself by Mr. Gautam Mahajan, President Customer Value Foundation in December 2020. Lecture on Personal Branding and Communication by Mr. Naren Kaimal, Brand Communication Consultant. Lecture on Creating Career Best by Shrikant Arimanithaya, Global Talent and Enablement Services of ENY GDS in February 2021. Then Personal Transformation for Professional Growth by Dr. Kalpana Gopalan, IAS, PhD, IIMB, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Animal Husbandry, Fishery and Janaspandana, Public Grievances, Government of Karnataka in March 2021. Lecture on Career Planning by Mr. Lennis Matthews, SPHRI, Director, Urban HR Services Private Limited, Delhi in April 2021. Lecture on Career Decision and Mindfulness by Ms. Sharika Menon, founder and CEO, Mindport and Precipice Academia in May 2021. Lecture on Navigating Careers During a Pandemic by Mr. Shravan Charya, CEO and founder, Sociopay in June 2021. Lecture on Holistic Approach to Life and Career by Dr. Kate Janik, co-author, The Prosperity Factor and founder, JK European Luxury Products in July 2021. Lecture on Communication for Success and Happiness by Professor S. Shri, former Associate Professor, MG College, Trivandrum in August 2021. Lecture on Influencer Marketing by Mr. Raja Das Gupta, Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder, Gen Z 360 in September 2021. In addition to all this, in February 2021, we also organized a mannequin challenge contests for student chapter of TMA to celebrate the National Management Day, the Foundation Day of IMA. The theme was Transformation for Continuity. 3 topics were given for students to choose from. The first topic being COVID management and safe health practices. Second, clean energy, green energy, and sustainable energy. And third, digital transformation. College of Engineering Trivandrum bagged the first prize and St. Xavier's College, Nagargol, the second. The current student chapter of TMA, both active and non-active, are Asian School of Business Management, CEO School of Management, Rajdhani Business School, Kerala Institute of Cooperative Management, Lourdes Mata College of Science and Technology, Institute of Management in Kerala, Conspy Academia, St. Xavier's College, Nagarkoil. And today we would have revived the partnership between TMA and DCSCMS. It will be interesting for you to know that the former Chief Minister, Shri Oommen Chandy, had inaugurated the TMA student chapter at DCSMAT at Trima. It is my honor today as chairperson of the student chapter of TMA to be instrumental in the revival of the same. I thank the management, faculty, and students of DC School of Management and Technology for giving me this opportunity to address the inaugural gathering of Forza 2.0. I wish the success, the student, faculty, and management of DCSMAT all success in their future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Aishwarya.
Thank you, ma'am, for your gracious presence and informative words, ma'am. Today, we have with us a dominant personality to handle the webinar on the topic Pandemic Acceleration of Industry Revolution 4.0. He is currently the Chief Executive Officer of ICT Academy of Kerala, which is mandated to provide employability skills to technical, technology, and science institutions in Kerala. Before joining ICT Academy, he was branch head of TCS Limited in Kochi. He holds bachelor degree in electrical and electronics engineering and masters in instrumentation and control engineering. With an experience span of over 17 years in the ICT industry, he has performed multiple roles, both in India and abroad. He is a member of KMA, CSI, CII, and NASCOM. It's my pleasure to invite you, our chief guest, Sri Santhosh Chandrasekara Kurup. On behalf of everyone present here, I extend a gracious welcome to you, sir. Now the platform is all yours, sir. Please.
Ajay sir, could you please add Chandrasekara sir into the panelist?
Okay, sir. Sir, which name? I'm not able to find out.
You would find it as Santhosh.
I'm not getting.
So Santhosh.
Santhosh.
So he has not joined.
Santhosh is joined, please. Kindly check if Santhosh is there.
Ajit sir, the speaker has joined.
Yes.
Santhosh sir has joined. Kindly add him.
So today we have with us a dominant personality to handle with the webinar on the topic pandemic acceleration of industry revolution. And it's my pleasure to invite our chief guest, Shri Santhosh Chandrasekara Kurup. On behalf of everyone present here, I extend a gracious welcome to you, sir. And now the platform is all yours, sir. So please.
Okay, good morning. I have to admit, I was told that the event will start at 10, so I thought I will join around 9:50. Good to see that the event is going ahead of time, which is a great thing to happen because many of the events that I have participated in the past used to normally get delayed. So congratulations to DC School for organizing the event on time or perhaps before time. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Jaishankar Prasad for connecting with me and connecting me with the event organizers and getting me onto this very esteemed platform where I could connect and talk to a lot of your students and faculty members. So before much ado, I just wanted to get into the session. The topic that I was given was the acceleration of IR4 technologies due to pandemic, right? I'm not quite sure how many of the participants would know IR4 technologies. What is Industrial Revolution 4.0 and the background of it. I'm not quite sure whether I can use the chat or somebody can use the chat and tell me if many of you are aware of what is Industrial Revolution 4.0, in which case I won't talk much about it. Otherwise, I can give you a bit of a context on what is Industrial Revolution 4.0 before getting into the details. Very quickly on the chat, anybody want to say, yeah, I'm aware of it, or no, I don't know? So somebody said, please give an intro, which means I should give an intro on the Industry 4.0 also.
I think that would be better, Santhosh. A quick outline and then go on.
Okay. Okay. So we keep hearing about this Industrial Revolution 4.0 quite a lot, but many of them uses it in different contexts. So just to give you a perspective, the industrialization of the world happened way back in the 17th century with the advent of steam engines. Before that, humans used to produce goods and products for themselves, or they used to take the help of natural things like animals and other entities to get to do things for the human benefit. But the advent of steam engine is what changed the whole context, and that is where the revolution started. So when people used to make their own clothes at home or in small communities, got changed into creating large industries for creation of the textile industry, right? So engines were used in large scale, and factory workers started to come in, and that's how the revolution started. But it had got its own merits and disadvantages. It was slow, and it created a different set of class, and all those things happened during that process. And there were a lot of other socio-economic activities also that happened in parallel. So the first industrial revolution, people, the economists say, is the advent of steam engines. Then they moved into the next industrial revolution, where things got faster, where things, the class existence of people who are working on the floor to people working in the coal factories got slightly diluted with the advent of electricity. So the coal and the boilers and all those things got replaced. So it is a matter of connecting the factory engines to the power cords, and then things would happen. So that is considered as the next level of industrial revolution. It is called Industrial Revolution 2.0, where electricity played the major role in connecting the industries and made it faster, cheaper, and also more widespread. Again, that went on for nearly a century. So the first industrial revolution took a century to stabilize. The second industrial revolution also took more of a century to stabilize. Then came the advent of computers. Electronics and computers came on board, which actually increased the quality of it by putting together a lot of controls into the industrialization process, right? So all these controls were done by humans on the shop floor, which got removed to the office spaces. So the industrial layouts had a shop floor on the ground and the control units on the top floor, where engineers and others used to sit and control the various aspects of industrial production and also quality checks and things like that. So there were more automation that came into picture. There were more what you call control and quality consciousness were improved substantially by the advent of electronics and computer science. So that is what we normally call it as the Industrial Revolution 3. Okay. Now, in the past 10 years or so, the scientific world and the economic world and the industrial world has been talking about the next industrial revolution, which is called as the Industrial Revolution 4.0. So the third industrial revolution started towards the beginning of 1950s and kind of stabilized in less than 50 years. So first industrial revolution took almost a century or more than a century. Second one nearly a century. Third one took around 50 years. Now in the last 7 to 8 years, we are into the middle of what we call it as the Industrial Revolution 4.0. What does it mean is that during this time, maybe a lot of the students who are joining here, you're all millennials. So you were born and brought up with computers and mobile and things like that. So the intrusion of technology into the human lives have become so huge that there is an interconnection between what we call it as the physical world and the cyber world. So there used to be only physical world and biological world in the past. That is where all the three industrial revolutions happened. But when it came to the newer world, there is another world that has actually become substantially big. In fact, it is growing to threaten the humanity to become even bigger than the physical world, which is called the cyber world, right? So the existence of cyber world became very prominent in the last 10 years, thanks to internet, thanks to mobile penetration, thanks to Internet of Things, and a lot more things that happened. because of his cyber world became extremely competitive, extremely important to the human life. So the Industrial Revolution 4.0 talks about the convergence of not just the physical and the biological world. Physical world is the world that we see around, the bushes, the trees, the roads, and the planet that we see around. Biological world is the living things that lives on this planet, and now the cyber world that has come in, which is what we were just discussing. So a beautiful convergence of these three worlds for the advent of industrialization is what we are seeing currently, and that is what precisely what we call it as Industrial Revolution 4.0. Okay, I hope that kind of sets you a bit of a context from a non-technical term. Now, the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is, as I was mentioning, it is predominantly run by the technology. So that is one of the interesting features of the Industrial Revolution 4.0. So many a times we used to wonder if when we say IT, it used to be IT as a separate discipline. So is Industrial Revolution 4.0, we talk about a lot about IT, but it is again a separate discipline. We still have banking, we still have transportation, we still have mining, we still have agriculture. So why should I bother? But the reality is that all these industries are getting converged with the help of technology. So technology is becoming a backbone for all the industry, and that is the characteristics of Industrial Revolution 4.0. Speed and data are very, very important aspects of this technology, this revolution, I would think. So giving a few points. Hello. Hope you are able to hear me. All right. Okay.
Yeah, kindly mute all others other than the speaker, please.
Okay, thanks, Jay. So what I was telling is some of the characteristics of Industrial Revolution 4.0. One is the speed at which the revolution is happening. Two is the technology intervention in various streams of life. Three is the importance of data. These are, I would say, and four is the connectivity. So these are some of the very core aspects of Industrial Revolution 4.0 characteristics. So when it comes to the speed, as I was saying, a few products, if you take, they say that it took around 50 years for landlines to get into a customer base of 100 million or so, or 50 million or so. But when it comes to the mobile phone, it took only 12 years to get that 50 million users. So it is substantially reduced. It took around 22 years for television users to gain 50 million user base across the world, whereas YouTube took only 4 years to get that 50 million, right? So that's the kind of speed in which, I mean, there is a beautiful slide which talks about various elements of such thing. Interested people may kindly go and check it out on how various products that we use in life has stabilized and garnered 50 million or 100 million users, how much time it took and how much time it is taking for newer products. The latest one we say was the famous Pokemon Go, which took only 19 days to actually become extremely popular, right? So that's one of the characteristics of this revolution. So the second characteristics also is while the speed is there, unlike the past where one or two generations can still live without much of a change, what it means is that for you guys, one of my first suggestion would be that the changes are happening extremely fast. So you need to be adaptable, flexible in this new world, because these changes are not as slow as in the past. It is transforming very, very, very quickly. The second one is also the fact that it is in the past, it was like steam engine, electricity, computer, but in IR4, it is going to be rapid, multiple evolutions of rapid industrialization. So there could be AI that is picking up now, there could be robotics that is picking up in another time. So there are 9, 10, 12 sub-revolutions, I would say, which is going to disrupt the world as we move on. So it is not just one thing that is going to change in this IR4, but it is going to be multiple things that is going to change. So that adds to the complexity of the world that we are living or we are facing now through to the next stages. So there was a beautiful article which again talks about this is coming from the point of data. There is a beautiful internet article which talks about the 1 internet minute. So every year they publish that, and the 2021 internet minute report, if you say, it's a beautiful circular graph which you can see again. it is very characteristics. It says 2.21 million texts are being sent in 1 internet minute across the world, right? Around 1.6 million of money has been transacted in just 1 minute online, right? So these are some very staggering numbers which we couldn't even think of in the past. So which again means that the data, as I said, is becoming extremely critical for this IR4. So it is important to understand that there was another interesting story we said that right from the advent of computers through to 2010, the amount of data that is being produced over the cyber world is just getting produced in a single day. We are talking about 2.5 quintillion data. 2.5 quintillion is nothing but 2.5 followed by 18 zeros, right? It's not a joke. It's the kind of data that is being produced by the world on the cyber world. So that is very staggering. So and again, it is not just one form of data. The speed of data is high. So around 1.5 billion data inputs comes in Facebook every day. So it is very, very fast. The volume is high, the velocity is high, the variety is high because people don't follow any more structures. They just type in and there are systems that will interpret it. So data is becoming extremely critical these days. So if I were to summarize on the characteristics of IR4, again for curious minds, there are 4 domains that they call it. One, they call it as the connectivity, data, and computational power. That is where the sensors, Internet of Things, cloud technology, cyber security, all these things comes into play. So just to give you a bit on the Internet of Things and connectivity, Internet of Things, accordingly, the data says that we have got around 24 billion objects. 24 billion objects. The total human population by now is around 8 to 8.5 billion. Okay, we are talking about 3 times that of objects that is found in the cyber world. That means our TVs to mobile phones to buses to schools to everything is connected, and it is able to talk to each other on the cyber world. That's the level of connectivity that is there. 5G, which is emerging, is going to be 100 times faster than the 4G connections that we have, right? So that's the element of connectivity, data, and computing power. In fact, very interestingly, as you know, typically vaccines take around 10 years of cycle time to get produced, tested, and then implemented. We have seen the COVID scenario. The world has produced vaccines in under 2 years. And that's possible because of it's not because of the pressure. Of course, the time pressure was there, but even then, you can't just test it without testing it, release it. It went through all the processes, and it was purely possible because of the advent of technology. They say that for the vaccination related researches, it was a distributed research. Around 47,000 research materials were actually collaborated, read, researched out through the scientific community across the world. And quantum computing, genomics, all these mechanics were used for deriving those vaccines out there. So the computing power has substantially increased. That's one aspect of it. The second part is about the analytics and intelligence, which is where this 24 billion connected devices producing 2.5 quintillion data is being processed using advanced analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, because we can't read, humans cannot read that much of data, but we need to take decisions out of it. So there are technologies out there which will crunch all these data points in the back and will give you 2 or 3 important decision points, which is used by humans to take the decision. That's the second part. So the connectivity, data, computing power as the first part, analytics and intelligence as the second part. The third part is the interaction between humans and machine. It could be through virtual augmented reality. It could be through robotics and automation. It could be through chatbots and software robots to automated guided vehicles. These are the ways in which the humans are now connecting and interacting with the world. So again, COVID has substantially accelerated some of these areas, including the connectivity, including the analytics, including the human-machine interactions. I'll come to that in a bit. The fourth and the final element of IR4 foundational technologies is about advanced engineering. That is where we talk about genomics, we talk about nanoparticles, we talk about additive manufacturing, and so forth. So at the lower end of connectivity, data, power, sensors, technology, to the next level of data analytics to the third level of human to cyber world connection, human cyber world and biological world interactions to lastly advanced engineering. These four makes it to the IR4 technology characteristics landscape. Again, this may look a little technical for the management institution students, but I just thought, because there are multiple connotations of IR4, but I thought it may give you some perspectives of it. I have a couple of slides on that. Maybe after the session, I can share that to the coordinators if anybody is interested. Now, what has happened through COVID? COVID has substantially accelerated a lot of these things, okay? So I think that is one of the fundamental discussions of today's topic. But before going to that, I just wanted to also touch upon the fact that the impact of IR4 is also widespread, not just in the business world, not just in the technology world. It has impacted, or it has got far-reaching impact on the economy. It has got far-reaching impact on the business. It has got impacts on the national and global scenarios, and also at the individual level. So life has changed substantially with technology advancements. We are all seeing that. It has changed economies. It has changed business models and social aspects. In fact, there are counterproductive impacts as well. So the society, the inequality between the haves and have-nots have now been also characterized by digitally enabled and digitally disabled, right? So that is becoming increasingly a major headache for nations and governments in the world. So the impact factor is not just restricted to business, it is restricted not just individuals, it is widespread and it is almost global. So that is another thing that you may want to look at. Now, coming to the impact actually due to COVID, these are very interesting aspects of it. I mean, there are a lot of articles and materials out there to go and read, but I'll pick up only a few things. But the IR4, just for your information, the IR4 revolution has happened much before COVID. As I said, last 10 years, this was in action across the world, and India also was slowly but surely consuming those aspects of the Industrial Revolution 4.0. The World Economic Forum, in its 2020 report, it was based on a pre-COVID situation, was analyzing about the impact of IR4 on various segments. So there were some interesting studies which said additive manufacturing, for example, additive manufacturing is nothing but usage of 3D printing and 4D printing technologies to produce products and services, right? So what they say is that in the construction sector, they see that in the next 10 years, by 2030, they feel that 69% of the construction sector will have a positive impact by using additive manufacturing. We never expected that kind of a movement happening in India so soon, but COVID has actually accelerated that substantially. And we have started to see additive manufacturing and 3D printed, products in the construction sector, prefabricated products in the construction sector, which is accelerating the development of real estates and other areas. Now, when it comes to artificial intelligence, which is another interesting technology in the IR4 context, 90% of the artificial intelligence has got an impact on the financial services sector as such. So they say that that's going to substantially reimagine the financial services sector in the coming days. Cloud computing, another important technology area when it comes to IR4, 91% of governments across the world is going to be one of the biggest subscribers when it comes to cloud computing, which is very, very unique because governments are traditionally slow in adapting to change. But when it comes to cloud, I think this is going to take a lot of impact. In fact, the state data center of Kerala government is already in the cloud. So it is no more in physical locations and things like that. It has already moved. So there are changes that are happening. The impact of it is being felt in local also. 93% of the oil and natural gas industry is actually going to be impacted positively by the help of Internet of Things. Oil and natural gas industry, nothing to do with technology, right? It is offshore and onshore related drilling and mining of oil and natural gases. But there also the usage of unmanned aerial vehicle to remote control using Internet of Things is going to positively impact around 93% of the services and the supply chain, value chain activities in the oil and natural gases can be impacted using technology. So this is how the IR4 technology is impacting the world all across. Now, as I said, COVID has in fact accelerated a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are being impacted. I will take a few things that are visible in the world, which I am sure you also have seen it all across. One is obviously in the education sector. We are all, if it was not COVID, I'm sure this webinar would have been a seminar, and many of you would not have even seen the college for the last 18 months, would have been sitting comfortably inside the college auditorium and so forth. So during the COVID last 18 months, around 1.5 billion of students have moved towards remote learning mechanism. So which was never imaginable in the pre-COVID scenario. In fact, we have a story on our side when we started off. In fact, Dr. Jaishankar and all were involved in that program. We created a mechanism to interconnect all the engineering colleges in the state and a few other colleges in the state through a technology architecture called Skills Delivery Platform Kerala. In fact, Jay was leading that initiative in his previous role, and we were very, very excited about connecting it, even though the COVID took some time away from that. But when we were approaching the institutions, the responses have been very cold. And when we were trying to excite them with the possibilities, I think they were still worried about, oh no, this is online, we will not be able to appreciate it much. We need classroom levels and things like that. Now, 18 months down the line, I think if you ask somebody about online-based learning, I don't think any institutions, even in the remotest places in the state, would have a problem in connecting remotely into these kind of systems. So education sector was substantially disrupted. Post-COVID, it will remain by and large a hybrid model. So you will see some level of online and some level of offline. Healthcare sector is another big area that has been completely reimagined. In fact, telemedicine, tele-based, remote-based medical provisioning due to COVID, there were social distancing and other challenges. So healthcare sector took a lot of leap forward with the use of technology. In fact, one interesting example again from Kerala is that there was a company called Zaya Robots, which is out there in the startup mission in Kalamashiri. I think again, Dr. Jay must have been part of it in incubating them in those times into that area. It's a 7-year-old company, if I understand. They managed to sell only one robot in 5 years, and that too as a pilot in one of the bank. But during the COVID, they managed to sell around 12 robots in the healthcare sector, administering medicines and other aids to the nurses in the COVID wards, right? So that's the kind of change that has happened. And to be fair, the co-founder never imagined that kind of a drastic change that would happen in that area. In terms of the next important area, which I think is going to be significant for you also, is the changes in the workplace. I think in the past, we used to go to offices and work, but now around 80% of the world's white-collar jobs are actually being run remotely. So work from home has become a new norm. And more than that, some of the small and medium companies, in fact, has gone beyond providing permanent jobs to individuals, but rather on-demand jobs, which leads to the new model called gig economy. In fact, Kerala government is starting a new program called Kerala Knowledge Economy Mission, through which we are wanting to promote knowledge industry through remote jobs and gig economic models that are applicable for our participants. So the workplace models have changed substantially. Industrial automation has increased. Again, people were not available during the COVID into the work shop floors. So that has accelerated the mechanics of automation inside the industry. 43% increase has been registered in the last 1 year alone on the industrial automation in some of the large plants. So it is going to be completely accelerated even in the coming years. Because once the transformation begins in such areas, I think it has a cascading effect. Whether pandemic is there or not, it will have a similar impact. E-retail is the new shopping experience for users. 300% jump in online shopping happened during the COVID season. I think many of us are very much aware of it. So the very brick and mortar retail concept and the whole supply chain mechanics is kind of changed. Digital payments in India alone, there is a jump of 98.5% in the last 2 years compared to the past. So this was a vision of the government of India also to accelerate digital payment, but that was never possible in the past. But now I think digital payments have been substantially accelerated because of COVID. So I think there are many more industries that that has gone in. For example, online food delivery has grown by 150%, including the mechanics of hyper local delivery mechanisms. Now, I wanted to also talk 2 minutes on some of the areas which we would not have seen as prominently. These things that I have mentioned is very, very prominent. A few things that we would not have seen very prominent, but is happening around us, is the fact that food delivery, for example, restaurants, there used to be restaurants all across, and that was the model, typical business models. Now we are starting to hear the concept called cloud kitchens. Cloud kitchens are nothing but kitchens that are available only for these platform providers like Swiggy's and Zomato's of the world. So they don't have restaurants, they only have kitchens. They only produce food and they will deliver it to the customer using online platforms. So that is becoming a very interesting trend. So you may not, or you will, along with the typical restaurants, you will also see only kitchens. It used to be there in the past in traditional rural kind of village setups, where we used to have Amma Veedu and things like that. But now I think it is becoming the norm. It is becoming an industry, right? The next one is about distributed cyber security. I think in the past, you can imagine schools were in the central place, workplaces were in central place, shopping happens in the central place, but now it is all distributed. You are all going to, or we are all doing it in our home. So the typical cyber security norms is giving way to what we call it as a distributed cyber security, right? Education is distributed, workplace is distributed. So that has become an interesting area of technological advance that is being looked upon. Pet adoption, I think you may not have seen that, but it was so interesting to see that during COVID, the pet adoption rates across the world has gone so high. So that has kind of become a very interesting new market which was existing there, which got accelerated because of COVID. So the pet care clinics, the pet care medical pharma care, and also support systems has accelerated substantially. The next one is the hyper localization, which is something very interesting, where in fact the national boundaries itself is getting demarcated or remarked because of it. So in the past, again, going back to the distributed model of delivery, even the hyper localization is happening pretty much. So the food delivery or the grocery deliveries need not always be using Amazons and Swiggies of the world. There are local players who can deliver food at home, or who can provide grocery services online using their own portals, and also can deliver it to your locality. So what is happening is platforms are emerging to connect panchayats or wards or even living centers like apartments and villas, etc., focusing only on those small communities. There's substantial amount of hyper localization is happening, which also means that nowadays there is a very interesting trend which we don't know how it is going to shape up. Maybe management students may have a beautiful case here to look at the supply chains, which used to be global in nature, and it used to Taiwan chips to Chinese gasket to Indian design, or Indian intelligence to software to American design, used to be the market for making devices in the past. But I think because of the national and other issues of travel, COVID, and disputes, etc., happening, there's a lot more supply chain localization is happening, and which is also leading to the next possibility of, from an economic development, what is happening is newer models of capitalization, which is called social capitalism models, are emerging, which is like, in the past, if one country is impacted, that's fine, we can still survive. But I don't think with the hyper localization, with localization of supply chains happening, I think the interdependencies of countries are becoming extremely critical, and hence there is a free thinkers are of the view that a new capitalism called social capitalism, which is kind of a mix of socialism plus capitalization. Capitalism is also becoming a norm for the future. So these are some of the, I talked about what is IR4, I talked about what are the characteristics of it from a technology perspective, I talked about the impact of it in various industries, I talked about the impact of it due to COVID, the acceleration of these industry segments and IR4 technologies due to COVID. I just wanted to wind up, I think my 30 minutes is getting over. I just wanted to wind up to say that what it means to you. It means that first, as I said, the Industry 4.0 movement is not traditional. It is kind of what in technical terms, technology terms, we call it as disruption. It is, which literally also means that disrupting your life. So we can't take things easy. What we learn today may not be applicable for us in the future. The speed at which changes are happening is substantial. The complexity of changes that are happening is substantial. The dynamics of these on business models, the dynamics of these things on people, on the HR aspects, the policies are all changing. And I think one last suggestion would be to open your eyes to what is happening around. Textbooks are important, the learnings from the colleges are important, but I would strongly suggest that some of the things that you are learning in your colleges, unfortunately, may not be sufficient for you to be in a position to live up to the expectations of the real world with the changes that are happening. In fact, we used to work, ICT Academy used to work in that exact space where we were trying to bridge the gap between industry and academia, because we feel that this community of students coming out of the academia, they are good in their knowledge, but their knowledge to apply may not be that much. So we used to work as a bridge to accelerate that and then get them productive into the industrial space. Now, my concern is that even the knowledge gap is going to be very high, because what you have in the colleges as knowledge base may not be the knowledge base that is required as of now in the industry because of the acceleration that has happened. So we are hoping that policymakers and educationalists are going to address that gap in the knowledge domain and will substantially augment the syllabuses and curriculum and all those things. But that may take some time. So my sincere suggestion to all the student community who are participating here and also the faculty community is to look around the world. It's not very difficult, because if you are able to crack things on in the academic curriculum, whatever the changes that are happening in the world is not difficult to understand and appreciate. But the important fact is that you should understand and appreciate what is changing and then need to start building your base to adapt to that. So once again, thank you for a very patient listening. I really appreciate you giving me this platform to talk to the elite crowd of participants over here. I will stop for the time. If there are any questions or queries that are there, I'm more than happy to address it. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, participants, you can post your questions in the Q&A session or directly to the panelist and the speaker. And the panelist, if you see any questions, you may post it to him. You may ask it to the speaker.
So there is a question from students. Can I audible, sir?
Yeah, it is audible.
Okay, sir. This is a question. Is it possible for machines and technology to control humanity in the near future? Do you think such a situation will arise? This is a question from the.
Okay. I would love to have a crystal ball to predict that, but my take on this is machines may be able to take advantage of a lot of things that humans are doing now, but I don't think machines can take over humanity. It may take over some of the tasks of humans, but not necessarily humanity.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Next question.
You're on. Yeah.
Sir, will there be a IR5? So what will lead to such a revolution?
It's an interesting question. Definitely industrial revolutions keep happening. If we are on 4 now, definitely there are chances of 5 coming in. But I don't have any idea of what that industrial revolution 5.0 would be. I would only think that it may be an advancement of, traditionally we have seen things progressing from the 1 to 5 is more about increasing the efficiency, supporting the humanity at large. So definitely the Industrial Revolution 5.0, whatever it would be, is going to definitely further support the humanity and human aspects of it. It will definitely augment the capabilities of human beings and world at large. But I can't predict what those things would be at this point in time.
Sir, but there are a few papers which talk about Industry 5.0, where they talk about machines and man working hand in hand, like humanoids, like thing, or maybe something like that, maybe. So, is that will that be a revolution, or do you think that it's just an extension of 4.0?
Yeah, to me, I would think that building intelligence to the machines is part of Industrial Revolution 4.0. It would be, I would think that people can again predict that could be a new era of industrialization. But to me, I feel that it could perhaps be only an extension of what we are seeing. But as I said, Industrial Revolution 4.0, by and large, the experts say that it is not just one aspect of it, it is multiple elements of it. So as I said, it is not just one element that is driving it, so multiple elements of it. So it could be that instead of 4.0, there would be 4.1, 4.2 and so forth that may be coming in by way of its life. But again, it's all experts' view on how they wanted to classify it as a separate revolution. But one thing is sure, for your point, Mr. Ramal, I think it is time for managers to not just plan for human resources. I think in the planning process, you should also start to talk about human plus machine resources. It is very high time for you guys to do that.
Correct. So, saying that what will be the like because in India, I think we are just started off with 4.0. We are not into not much connectivity has happened yet. But in the near future, like for example, the students who are currently into their final years and doing their MBAs, what kind of new job profiles might come up in the context of Industry 4.0, especially in India?
Okay, I think that's a very interesting question, Amal. I think one of the things, as I mentioned, is the fact that the new world, that's a challenge for even faculty members. When faculty members, or during our generation, we could predict what are the jobs that are out there in the world. And therefore, we can also groom our students accordingly. But the next 10 years, we don't know how and what the jobs would be. So we are actually getting into the real VUCA world. I think VUCA is one terminology the management gurus and experts commonly use, but it is going to be real. It is going to be volatile, unpredictable, and so forth. But the good thing, or the actual fact, is that, again, going back to a reference of World Economic Forum, which said around 85 million jobs will go away from the planet in the next 10 years. So whatever we are seeing now, 85% or 85 million of that jobs will not be there. So 85 million people who are doing certain set of jobs may not be able to do the same job because that wouldn't exist. But the good news is around 92 million new jobs will get replaced, right, in the same field. So which means that there is going to be a completely different set of job, or a differently augmented job. So for example, even now we are seeing a differently augmented job, which is one example is we all know about invigilation, right? Exam invigilation. So I mean, we all have different visions of an invigilator, strict, coming around, no talking, going around the exam halls and things like that, right? That's a typical invigilation that we all have seen. Now, one of the companies is asking for an online invigilator, okay? Their job is that exam will be administered through an online mechanism, and the cameras and the audio should be open. And the invigilator's job is from a remote location, somewhere outside of the world, in a different location altogether, will see these, like I'm seeing 4 of you, they will see all those candidates on the screen. And with an artificial intelligence driven algorithm, which has got certain characteristics being checked on a normal basis, it will pull out notifications saying that, you know what, there are some changes in this person's movement. So then it will pop up that, and then the person and the invigilator can go and look at that particular image and open it up, look at it in big way and have a conversation with them and make sure that everything is okay and there's no malpractice, right? So its invigilation as a role is more or less same, but it has substantially changed, right? It is not the new invigilator should know how to use say a Zoom or a WebEx and how to use some of these AI tools and understand the notifications and things like that, right? So that's an augmentation that we are talking. So what they are saying is while some of the jobs will go away, it may get either augmented or changed into the new world. And I would think that anywhere in the near future, I think data analytics, anything to do with data scientists, data analytics, business analysts using data, all these are going to be very, very important jobs in the future. So from a management perspective, I think data science and analytics, if I were to pick one important technology-enabled management job, data analysis and data analytics tools are going to be substantially important for you.
Okay, so thank you. There is one more question from the participant side. What could be the possible changes in the healthcare sector in Industrial Revolution 4.0?
I think COVID has really made the healthcare sector more technology savvy. So one of the, if I were to look at the industrial level of changes that has happened, I think apart from the interestingly IT, the next big sector that has been positively impacted has been healthcare. And there are 2-3 changes that we are seeing. One is the conventional healthcare mechanism of administering the diagnosis in physical terms is going away. So there is a lot of remote enabled diagnosis and servicing is going to happen. So that is one major change that is coming up. The second major change that we are seeing is the advent of artificial intelligence into the diagnosis and cure perspective. So there are machines that are going to assist the doctors and nurses in identifying and diagnosing the diseases, so that the time for a doctor is reduced by around 40%. So the prediction is that a doctor's time can be reduced by 40% by usage of AI-enabled support mechanism. That's the second change that we are seeing. So the service time required for human doctors and nurses is going to be substantially reduced, which is a good thing for India kind of environment where the doctor-patient abysmally low. Technology is going to help in controlling that. Hello, you're able to hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible. I think your video got.
Sorry,
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, is it better?
Yes, sir.
Is it better now?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that in a context like India, such a shortening of service time of doctors is going to be of extreme benefit. So AI is going to support the serviceability time of doctors and medical care facilities. The third one is on the research side. So a lot of cure and also vaccines and other mechanics of finding out new cure for the kind of diseases or possible emergence of new pandemics and new diseases on the research side is going to be substantially augmented because of the emergence of quantum computing. You can actually simulate zillions of data points very, very easily. And fourth and finally, medical device field is going to be substantially augmented with the help of technology. So these are the 4 areas that we could predict as going to be happening. One is the serviceability through remote mechanisms and technology-enabled serviceability. Second is service augmentation with the help of technology. Third is the research and development area. And fourth is the medical device area.
So there is another question from Savin. So what, according to you, will the future growth of industries in India by 2030?
There are going to be a few interesting aspects of it. I think, as I was mentioning, the supply chain is going to be radically transformed. Again, a little geopolitical issues are also going to contribute. For example, the trust factor with China, which is a large manufacturing hub, has come down a lot because of various trust deficit that has been built around the COVID pandemic and things like that. So because of which there are a lot of companies that are looking outside of China to de-risk their operations. So India has a huge potential in the manufacturing sector to address that deficit and move things around. But having said that, India has to work a lot, because moving manufacturing is not just like pulling out a company or a factory from one place and pushing it onto other location. It comes with, I think management students, you would know, it comes with a lot of what you call supply chains around it, right? So that is going to be a critical element for success. So our roads, our transportation, our labor mechanism, interstate travel, all those things are still weaker. We still have a long way, storage and distribution. A lot of things have to be changed substantially, but there's a huge potential for absorbing the manufacturing segment that is growing outside of China. That is going to be one big element of growth for us. Secondly, India is in a global position when it comes to technology, right? We have been focusing more on the services industry. I think we are seeing a lot of uptick on the startup ecosystem. In fact, Kerala is emerged as one of the leaders in the startup ecosystem. So I think states together, if there is a lot more push on the innovation and product development aspects of supporting the startups continue in the same pace, I think the technological advances that are happening outside of in the Western world can transition fairly quickly into the country itself. The good news there is another interesting statistics which I was reading out is that around 800 plus companies of the global R&D hubs have got offices in India. Okay, so 800 plus research and development organizations have put their shops in India, which is a great base for us. Even though it is all run by MNCs, I think the kind of knowledge that our people have gained through this experience is substantially high. So I think if India can pivot into that R&D space, I think that is going to be a substantially great opportunity for the country to flourish. So technology and manufacturing, I would think, is a major potential for the country. And of course, finally, in the technology itself, space technology and space-related area, India is already a leader. India stands number 4. I think we are going to open up greatly into the private market. If that opening up is going to contribute positively inside the technology space domain, apart from the information technology area, space domain is also going to be a great winner for the country.
Okay, sir, thank you. There is
sir.
one more question from the Susmita Muralidhar in question panel. So in some sectors, technology has not vast so much. So, what will be the impact on them?
Didn't get the question, Ajmal. Can you repeat it?
Okay, sir.
Santhosh, if you click on the question and answer Q&A, I think the questions are being thrown up. You can just pick up which you think can be.
Oh, is it?
You saw the Q&A part of it?
I can't
Sir,
see.
some questions are sent personally, sir.
Okay.
No. Oh, okay. You send it in.
Yeah, I can see the Q&A now.
Okay. You can look
Ajmal
through
was
it.
asking.
Yeah, the same question. Ajmal was reading it. So if we can just consolidate, probably you can consolidate the answers for a couple of them together.
Yeah. What do you think artificial soon? Which all industries can benefit? How industry can companies achieve the company's value innovation? Okay, I think that was the question from Ajmal, which talked about the innovation aspect of it. Yeah. Okay, I think that is a very interesting question. I really wanted to spend a few minutes on that, because if you look at the past, I think when you start a new business, when you start companies, it needs a lot of capital, right? You need to build a lot of things. You need supplier networks, you need vendor networks, you need quite a lot of things to build an industry and survive it. But advent of technology, the smallest and the beautiful example is the additive manufacturing. You can actually manufacture products in your kitchen, right? You don't need large industry setups and complexes. So I think in simplistic terms, that's the value that technology brings into to the enterprises. So your whole network of capital intensive work can be substantially reduced, and that is a significant value for industries in the first place. Second one is, again, space is a classic example. Even in the past, we don't send rockets to test it, right? We always simulate it. Based on the simulation models only, we try it. Unfortunately, those kind of high precision simulation used to exist only in the space sector. But I think more or less all the companies are able to use technology to actually try out not just the what you call high research products, but even the consumer products. They are able to test the validity, test the market positioning, test the future of it using a lot of predictive analytics and other mechanisms that are available. So technology helps companies to predict possibly the outcome of a product launch and the kind of products that they need to launch in a particular market, and the markets where it can be successful way ahead of time, which is a beautiful opportunity for them while designing and creating the products. So at the designing of the products, at the positioning and marketing sales area of the products, all these areas, I think in across the value chains, I think you're going to see benefits. And of course, in the human resources itself, with a lot of automation coming in, replaced by technology, again, the precious human resources can also be protected and can be safeguarded so that you don't need to expand it beyond a certain capacity. So the capacity of human and financial resources, ability to navigate through the various value chain activities of a company is going to be extremely benefited out. So that's how I see it. What are the risks of Industry 4.0? I think obviously the first and foremost risk is about creating jobs in the future. So what are the kind of jobs of the future is always an unpredictable question mark, right? As I said, a lot of jobs may get replaced, it may be completely gone away, it may be augmented, it may be refined, or it may be new set of jobs. So that is going to create a huge level of challenges into the society, because jobs and economic activities are dependent on how the incomes are being distributed in a society. So if incomes come through earnings by doing jobs, so if job market is going to be uncertain, I think there is going to be an impact on that in the overall social dynamics of the world. Second one, as I said, it is also creating like the haves and have-nots. Now the digital haves and have-nots are becoming a major challenge for governments and society. So people who are having access, who are having the know-how of using technology versus the people who don't have it is going to be a gap, and it is going to determine the ability for them to earn and survive and flourish in the market. And third one is obviously technology, like the famous Alfred Nobel invented something which was for a good purpose, but it ended up into a wrong purpose, and he died out of he was heartbroken, right? That is a history. Likewise, I think even in the future, every technology has its own risk of being utilized by wrong hands. So the national security, the other extremist elements, etc., having hands on some of these technologies is definitely going to pose a hell of a lot of challenges for the humankind. So there are such risks that are going to be there on this. I think which all industries can benefit from IR4. I think I covered it by and large in my talk itself, so I wouldn't. That's it. Did I?
Panelists, are there any other questions you received?
No, sir.
Okay, fine.
Questions have already been discussed.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one question to the participants. Did it make any sense? Did the talk make any sense to you all?
Yes, sir.
The participants can't talk. I mean, I think the panelists can answer it.
So we have got another question.
Yes, sir.
Can I?
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Tony has also responded. Yes.
Okay. So 1 in 182 participants said yes. Okay, fair enough.
So next
Yeah, go ahead.
question.
Your question.
What are the skills required in Industry 4.0 era?
Okay, I think there are, as I said, there are a lot of technology skills that are coming out. So a good handle on technology is going to be a very, very useful opportunity for student community. But again, coming from management institutes and commerce and other areas, I think the opportunity on learning technology is not necessarily a need. But the usage of technology is going to be a necessary need. For example, as I said, if I were to pick one very important skill set for management students is about data analytics and data science. I think usage of tools that helps you to visualize the data and to analyze the data, understanding of such tools is going to be very useful. So even if you are not technologists to learn coding and all those things, but the usage of those tools is going to be very critical for you. The second one is, as I said, the business models are changing, right? In the HR fraternity, if you're an HR specialist, the HR models are changing. If you're an operations specialist or if you're graduating in the operations side, the typical value chain of operations are getting disrupted. So changes due to the technology in those value chain activities is something that you need to be specialized on. The third element of it is, as I said, a lot of things are going to be taken care by the technology. Then what is left for humans is the other bits that can be cracked easily. So the creativity quotient, the critical thinking element, the ability to collaborate and co-innovate. These are all some of the areas that are going to be extremely critical for the young generation who is going to graduate out. So ability to look at problems at large rather than looking at it in a very naive way versus solving it out in a critical element of it, or depending on the situation. Sometimes we need to be creative, sometimes we need to be critical, right? So ability to look at that aspect is going to be very critical. So on the hard sides, the understanding of various business models, usage of technology, and if interested, knowing a bit on technology would be helpful. But more importantly, on the soft side of things or the life skill side of things, I think there is a substantial change that is required in terms of managing the creativity quotient. In terms of risk taking, as I said, it is going to be a very, very vulnerable world. So how do we adapt to it? Adaptability is becoming very, very important to it. How are you going to stay grit? Quality of being gritful is going to be very important. So there are quite a lot of your life skills and soft skills is going to be seriously tested in the real life situation. So I would suggest that you should focus on some of those areas as well.
Okay, sir.
There was one question on how industries in Kerala would benefit from IR4 at par with other states. If we have some time, I will take this question also.
So we have time. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of Kerala, I think I mean, I wanted to take a step back to understand that the Kerala economy is largely driven by a few factors. One of the important area of ours has been the tourism industry, right? The whole value chain around the tourism industry was a big revenue earner for us. The second one was remittances that were coming from various other markets outside the state has been a very substantial amount of revenue earning potential for us. The third one is our small and medium industry. So we have a collection of around 15,000 to 18,000 small and medium industries in the state, which many of us wouldn't know, right? So the small and medium industries is a substantially big chunk of revenue earner and economic development domain for us. Unfortunately, the COVID has put a lot of brakes on all these three areas, right? The travel and hospitality sector nearly collapsed. Now it is revamping. The remittance economy kind of dwindled a lot. The third one about small and medium industry, due to physical nature of them, they couldn't operate quite a lot. So this is in this context is where, as I said, I gave a brief about the Kerala Knowledge Economy Mission program, where in fact Dr. Jay was also initially associated with the development of the strategy of the program. Is to also look at these changes that are happening in the world. So one of the philosophy that we are looking at is why we needed to send our people outside of the state to earn their revenue. Why can't we have our people stay in the state and work remotely and provide the services outside, right? So with remote work mechanism taking a big leap in the pandemic area, we feel that is having a potential to be extended beyond the normal time. So Kerala is looking at promoting the remote work culture. It also helps a lot of our career break women. So people who would have lost their jobs or who had to forcefully exit from the professional career due to family constraints is a great potential for us to tap into, because they will also have the flexibility to work remotely and work from their homes and managing both life and career. So remote work based knowledge industry is going to be a great focus for us as a new area of focus for the state. So we may promote taking the work remotely and executing it so that the revenue earned by the individuals is spent locally, so that the economic activities thrive. While we will continue to, I could see something about caravan tourism. Yes, we will continue to thrive on building new innovative models in promoting the MSME segment, promoting the tourism segment, and continuing to do with other segment areas. In fact, there is also a view that Kerala has a very high potential to become an EduTech market. So educational technology is something which the government is seriously looking at. That is going to be an interesting market. The third one is the healthcare market, right? Healthcare related, both on device manufacturing, both on specialty care, to research and development. All these three areas which I mentioned where technology is able to contribute. Healthcare area is going to be another segment that we are looking at. I'm just talking about the business area. So education, healthcare, of course, IT is going to continue to be a focus for us. Then we are going to also work on promoting the MSME by making them more adaptable to the technology, converting some of the conventional manufacturing into high-tech manufacturing so that they can take advantage of the technology benefits out there. There is another segment which is also a very interesting segment, which is the non-banking and financial sector, which is like the Muthuts of the world, or the other financial institutions. They are not banks. So if you look at the overall India market, Kerala has got a lot of domain expertise in the financial services, specifically on the non-banking sector. So we may augment that capability also in the state. So apart from the traditional industries, I think we may also look at some of these new end industry. In the traditional industry, we are also trying to see how we can augment it using technology. I hope I answered the question.
So it would be grateful if you could visit us in our campus.
Yeah, we will do that. Yeah, once the colleges are all opened and once you are all back in college.
They are back in campus. They are back in campus. We are already back in campus.
Oh, okay. So we'll find a suitable time and we will definitely meet you all.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So if nothing more, I wish to thank you all for a very, very lovely interaction. I really loved it, because many a times I normally take a backseat when it comes to these sessions, because it becomes very boring with one-way lecture kind of a thing. But I found this to be very, very interesting, because apart from the 20 to 25 minutes I spent, I think another 20-25 minutes were of questions and answers. So I liked it. I hope I met your expectations in responses and you got some answers to the questions that you asked. Thank you.
Sure, sir.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your words, and it was very informative that we could know more about Industrial Revolution team and about Industrial Revolution 4.0. It's very pleasure to have you, sir, in the webinar series. Now, let me invite Suraj for delivering vote of thanks.
It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of DC School of Management and Technology Trivandrum, extend a very heart vote of thanks to Mr. Santhosh Chandrasekara Kurup and Wing Commander Rajeshri D. Nair for making it convenient to grace the occasion by delivering their true pace-setting and very keen perspective keynote address. We are sure that your profound thoughts and perspective will inspire the engagement of all the participants. Now, I would like to place a deep sense of gratitude towards our Chief Facilitator, Ravi DC, for making all the arrangements for this particular webinar. And next, I would like to express my gratitude to the DC fraternity for providing us with such a wonderful opportunity to organize this event. As no program can become successful with a single person, I extend my big thanks to all the coordinators for making this event successful with your contribution. Last but not least, I would like to thank all those who have ensured their participation in the session. Stay tuned for the day 2 of Forza 2.0. You guys have something very special. Once again, thank you all and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Santhosh.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sneak peek.
Now, let's have a look on Sneak Peek today too. Tomorrow, we are having another eminent personality, Dr. Saji Gopinath sir, to talk about post-pandemic changes in the education sector. He is Vice Chancellor of Kerala University of Digital Science, Innovation and Technology. So he served in IIM Kozhikode for 17 years as Professor, Dean Development and Dean Academic. Director of TA Pipe Management Institute of Manipal, and he holds a degree in Mechanical Engineer from Kerala University, Masters and PhD in Management from Indian Institute of Science. Please fill the feedback form in the link provided in the chat box and kindly complete the feedback to mark your attendance in order to ensure your participation certificate. Join us tomorrow in the same platform. Thank you.